Mr. Greg Baldi, welcome to the craft.
Thank you.
We got with us today Greg Baldi, who's one of the most renowned second unit DPs and a main unit DP too. We it's the first time we have a second unit DP in this conversation, so we're gonna talk a little bit about your second unit job,
Cool.
and then we have to talk about your main unit job because
Thank
you did something really amazing
Awesome.
in the last movie you
Epic.
shot.
Thank you.
So we have to talk about that.
Cool.
So Greg, for the people who doesn't know, what does a second unit DP do?
Well, essentially, we shoot the action. Fights, car chases, explosions, all the scary, fun stuff, honestly. Um, uh, Essentially, that's it. And whatever else main unit doesn't do or wants us to do could even be boring inserts and easy uh, little vignettes of things, but mostly the fun action stuff.
How so? I mean, late. I don't want to get into the main unit stuff yet, but when did you start, and how many kind of project as second unit? How did that progression go? Obviously, you didn't get just dumped into shoot this fight sequence for $100 million
True.
film. But
So I started 30 years ago as a production assistant. And the first day I wanted to be a producer. And the second day I wanted to be in the camera department because it was a commercial and all of the producer type people were in the motorhome and hardly any of them were on the set. And I just wanted to be around the camera. I didn't know anything about movie making. Um, Only that I saw one of the James Bonds when I was a teenager, and remembered leaving the big screen saying something there would be really cool to do. I no idea, and that kind of went away for many years. And um, so I quickly got into the camera department and started moving up. And I happened to be on a job that had the Russian arm, the original Russian arm. And it was the only one in the United States. And I was very lucky to kind of start right when it was in the US. Maybe it was there a year or two, something like that. Um, and So we did lots of car commercials, and we just kept doing more and more. And then eventually, I was a second EC, a focus puller. Then I started becoming a camera operator, and and then I started shooting a little bit, and then I got my first break on a movie called Wanted with Angelina Jolie, and I came in to be the camera operator for second unit, and in the camera car specifically. And then I just got one movie after the next, after the next, and the next. Like really rather lucky, to be honest with you. Um, and I loved it. So really, I was the camera car guy for the longest time. Then I would start operating here and there, and at that same time, I started shooting car commercials, and then became a car commercial director. Uh, and that was always my specialty, was the camera car. So I've been in one now something like 25 years. There's three of us really who did it from the get go, who all still do some sort of camera thing. Um, so it was unique, interesting, fun, and I just started operating more and more as I would get out of the car and do. I started doing a little fight here or there, and just one thing led to another, and then I started shooting them, and um, and honestly, to me, it's funny. I talk about it all the time. It's almost not like work. I really love it.
And it
Ah,
shows.
thank you.
I can. And it shows. So is it that you started as a camera operator, and because you're so good of a camera operator, that leads you uh, towards the cinematography, or it was cinematography something that it was always a distant goal that
No,
that
it really. I wasn't sure what the goal was to be honest with you. I just wanted to be in the camera department, and really, I did one step at a time. I was a film loader, and I really just focused on that. And then once I started, once I was proficient in that, then I started looking at how do you be a second AC, and I did the same thing, and then a focus puller, the camera operator, and then really, I think once. Actually, I do remember I was pulling focus on a movie, and I had already been operating a good bit. And I said, well, I could either be a career focus puller, which lots of people have a great career, can make a ton of money. I said that, or do I want to go the more creative route and start operating? So after that movie, I really had made up my mind that I wanted to operate, and then from there, I definitely wanted to start shooting. So then I really just immersed myself in it and did want to become a cinematographer. But I also was very happy to just be a second unit DP. And I was enjoying it thoroughly. And I really didn't push to become a main unit DP, which is funny. Again, lucky again, that I had worked with Daniel Hargrave and did a TV show with him, and then did some stuff with the Russo brothers, and then something happened to the DP for Extraction 2, and then Joe Russo asked me if I wanted to shoot main unit on Extraction 2, and of course I was very nervous at first, but also I was super excited and knew I could do it. I had done quite a bit by then, and had done tons of car commercials, even as a director. So I felt very confident to be able to do it. I had studied so much, I'd shot so much, and really I knew it was a big action movie. So it's kind of was in my wheelhouse in a way. It's how I thought. So funny, I know people study their whole lives to do it and don't get to do it. So I've been lucky, and I got good in the camera car. And I got good at handheld and operating and doing fights. So it just kind of fell into my lap a little bit, if you will, um, and the rest is history, I guess, as they say.
It's it's an awesome history. I mean, for anybody that's seen it, the choreography, the oneers, everybody talks about the oneers. That had to have been just an absolute joy to sit there and craft that and be like, okay, how are we going to do that? Where's the seam? Where are we going to blend it? And then coming from your background, it's like, okay, we know all the toys. We know we have at our disposal. What was that like, that kind of first time you sat down with the director?
Well, the interesting thing about that was I said to Sam Hargrave, do you mind if I'm very critical of your first movie? And he was very open to it, but I also think he was like, yeah, go ahead, And I said, well, the one thing I see is I know you're doing it handheld, and I can see that you're running. And it's very difficult not to move the camera when you're running. Our arms naturally, move. So he said, yeah, well, yeah, good luck with that. Go ahead. See what you can do. So I then kind of said, oh, God, what did I get myself into? But I had done, interestingly, when I shot second unit on the Gray Man, we used the Ronin where I wore it. And so, and we had the Sony Venice. So I put the camera on my back, and, we used it in Rialto mode, so it breaks the camera in half. So, but it's still quite heavy. And what was interesting about it is because it's a remote head and it was in this kind of follow mode, oddly, somehow it was very similar to the camera car to a certain extent. And so we did fights and did all sorts of things with it, which was cool because it was like a Steadicam on steroids. And it gave me an idea. And actually, I had thought of this years and years ago, but how do you put a little camera on a stick and move it around, essentially? It's like you take these big camera cars that we've had, and how do you make a mini version of it? So, um, so that's what I did. Actually, we built basically several lengths of sticks, 9 feet, 7 feet, 5 feet, and we put a little mini Ronin on the end of it. And so, um, uh, Yarda, the guy who built it with me in Prague, was very excited. He had wanted to do this as well. I knew a lot of people who wanted to do it. And some people did actually do this just in different ways. Um, so we started testing it, and I immediately thought, well, because Sam Hargrave did handheld on a Polaris, like, a little off-road buggy, and he would be clipped in, and you could race around, and then they would unclip him, and he could jump off and move around. I'm sure lots of people have seen his behind the scenes for the first Extraction one, where their oneer was amazing, and Tom Siegel did an amazing job shooting it. So they had a really high bar, 11-minute oneer, 10, 11-minute oneer, and so anyway, we put Sam on the Polaris with like an easy rig essentially to hold the pole, so he didn't have to hold all the weight, and it moved incredibly fast. And so I canceled the camera car for main unit on the movie. We still used it on second unit for other things, but it was really incredible. But the one thing about it was it didn't match his handheld. It was too stable. So I said to Yarda, I said, how do we, do you have a shaker mode? I don't love shaker because it's very mechanical looking. So it's just it literally does the same thing over and over again. So to a trained eye, you can tell you have the shaker on. So he said, well, I can't put a shaker. I can't destabilize it. And I can't do it. And I said, well, listen, we have a little bit of time. Think about it. And he said, I can't do it. I said, please just think about it. So he called me a few days later. He said, I figured it out. And funny, Lev Istratov, who really was the first Russian armed technician, had showed us this tool years ago. It's an accelerometer. So it's just a little box that tells the camera to move. So we put that little box on a monitor with handles, and so I could move the camera separately, but if I wanted to make it handheld, I could add a little bit of shake to it, and then it finally started to match Sam's handheld on the Polaris. So I was very excited about that. All of us were very excited about it. Then we took and made a two-hand version of it with a button that had a magnet on it, so we could put it onto a spider cam, and we could run around with it. Actually, we even had it. It was on a stick. Take it off the stick, put it on the spider cam. It went up. We took it off and still kept going. So we just kept trying to see how we could move the camera for longer amounts of time, so that not everything had to be a stitch. Then I also made a one handle, and Sam Hargrave loved to do it. So he would hold it and run, and we could run faster than Chris Hemsworth could run with just holding this little camera. And I would be off to the side with my little monitor. And I wasn't the only one who operated. We had tons of stuntmen operate. We handed the camera off tons of times. Lots of camera operators did it. So it was a huge number of I probably 9 different operators in that whole 22-minute oneer we did. So it was super exciting, and that was what really made our oneer. It was incredibly fun, and in certain instances we would do it just handheld. In other instances we would use the big pole, or we'd use the one hand or the two hands. So it was really quite exciting, and it just helped. It helped us so much to be able to travel further and further, along. But sometimes our takes were 2.5 minutes long, and you could get to the very end, and someone made a mistake, and you'd have to start all over again.
Do you remember how many stitches are in 22 minutes? I was trying to
I
find
think
find them today.
it's so funny. For some reason I can't remember, but I do think it's like 150. It's something.
Yeah.
It's something
Wow.
like that. And the tough part too was we also had to make the sunrise, so it's very
Yes.
difficult to do. And obviously, day to day, sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it's raining, sometimes So that was also a big challenge. And uh, but to make the sunrise as naturally as you can, it was quite difficult. And also the prison scene. There's 400 extras and stuntmen in this huge prison scene, and they actually wanted us to take some time out of it because it felt too long to the studio or whomever. And it was like a live concert. We had every spotlight. We did it like music. The spotlight was, you go on 6, you go on 12, you go on 19. It's like to be able to do each spotlight to try to replicate it every time. So to have gone back to try to reshoot it would have been impossible, I thought. Um, and it did snow on us as well. Uh, so then we had to make fake snow because some days it wasn't snowing. Obviously, some VFX helped here and there, but um, it was quite a challenge.
What's the so when you're prepping a sequence like that, say like the oneer, the 22-minute oneer, is it very heavily, I would assume, but tell me if I'm wrong, heavily prevised, like we know,
So we didn't.
the entire sequence, and then you're just breaking it down chunk by chunk when you have
So
time?
uh, Sam Hargrave and their whole team had really built everything in Australia, and they wrote it to Australia and had it very designed and figured out, less previs and more stunt vised. So
Mm.
um, I think they were almost ready to shoot, and COVID shut Australia down. So then they moved it to uh, Patrick Newell, the producer, moved it to Prague because they just shut down Nosferatu. And so we took over all of their stages, all of their crew, and we had done a second unit there on The Gray Man with the Russo brothers. So we knew lots of the team. We did really well there. So we kind of just slotted right in. Um, and I would say we didn't have a lot of time. I think we only had 10 weeks, and they had to rewrite the oneer because it didn't fit the locations perfectly. So we had two prisons that made up our one prison. Um, and I remember telling the producer, I said, um, I don't know how to tell you this, but the lighting budget's going to be huge because we had
Yeah,
to
massive.
do humongous pieces, and I had to match two different um, uh, prisons to be the one. Um, so we rehearsed it pretty thoroughly. Maybe it was a month, and stunts had done a lot of it already, but they had to fit it into our new locations. Um, so we went right up into rehearsing the train sequence, which was the most difficult part. But the really hard part was we there's still 2/3 of a movie we had to prep, and we didn't prep much of it. So it was
Yeah.
quite difficult once we finished the oneer, actually. And the interesting thing about a oneer is you don't have to do coverage, right? You don't. There's no. It's the shot. That's it. It starts from here and it goes to here, and whatever happens in between, happens in between, and we have to fix that side has to match that last shot has to match this side, and the new shot has to match the end of it. Um,
Hmm.
so again, by the time we finished the oneer, we were on our heels a little bit and trying to figure things out. We did well, but I think we shot it in again, I kind of forget. Maybe it was 40 days the winter took us, something like that.
So
30 days,
for
40, 35, 40, somewhere in there.
and what for the rest of the movie? What was left?
I think it was
Because
a
40 days, if
77-day schedule.
okay, so 40 for the
So
one and
37 days left.
37 for the
Something,
Wow.
rest.
something
For
like that. I don't remember the
Oh,
numbers
that's
exactly, but
incredible.
that's pretty close.
and 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 the funny thing is that the rest of the movie doesn't become a romantic comedy.
Right.
It's still
It's still
action,
lots of
still gunshots,
Wow.
still a lot of shit happening.
yes,
Yeah.
there's a lot of shit. Exactly right.
Yeah.
So on things that weren't the oneer with the kind of abbreviated remnants of the schedule, did you guys run multiple cameras to have
Oh,
coverage
absolutely.
options, or was it still
Yeah,
kind of
we
a
had
single?
two, three,
Okay.
4 cameras all the time. Um, uh, so yeah, for sure, and we used techno cranes and steady cams. We did all the natural traditional filmmaking, and we did have a second unit. Now we did a lot of the action, believe it or not. The main unit did. Second unit mostly did the Vienna portion uh, when they invade the building, and a few other things as well, of course. Um, so, and they did a terrific job as well. But it was uh, it was interesting shooting so much action on a main unit. But for me, again, it was right up my alley. I loved it.
What lens did you use for the oneer, and how did you choose that lens?
So I tested many lenses, and what I really was looking for was a natural flare. So it didn't, we weren't going to do anamorphic because one, Tom Siegel didn't shoot anamorphic on the first one. Two, it had to be something light but still good quality. And I I shot the movie on the Alexa Mini LF, and I really wanted to shoot it on the Alexa 35, but it just came out, or it was just coming out, and I was even going to perhaps take a few of the new cameras, but we decided it would be too risky to try to have a brand new camera and do all this. So we didn't want to run around with the Mini LF. It's just you can do it to a certain extent, but trying to do these oneers and fights, it would be really tough. And that little Mini Ronin absolutely could not handle that kind of weight. So I chose a Komodo, and then I chose to keep the Komodo throughout the entire oneer, so I didn't have to really try to change the color space. So I tested everything. I really and truly I tested every lens I could come up with. And what looked best to me for this movie that met all of our parameters were the ultra primes. And I rehoused a bunch of the wide ones so that we could use the entire space. And they worked really well, and I loved how natural the flares were. I love they're all very similar. They're not too heavy, and it's still a nice, beautiful lens in my opinion. Sure, it's not a you know beautiful old school Panavision anamorphic lens, but it still it still served our purpose, and I thought they were great.
Yeah, ultras have a great quality. It's something that like we've gone back to on a few projects where I'm just like I can't quite place it, but there's something there that's
Yeah.
really pleasing. How did you come up with the focal length,
So
or was it all the same throughout the one, or
we
did it
changed it a
shift?
couple of times, not often. So we kind of had a few rules. One, you wanted it to be essentially another person or another person's POV, and for me, it was like the front row of the roller coaster for the audience. And so we we really what felt the best, especially since it wasn't anamorphic and it was spherical. We used the 16 and the 20, which really just felt better. You could get close, and it was wide enough to be able to see a good amount. I don't think we strayed from there. I think it was 16 and 20, and we would occasionally switch it to the 20 for something a little to just a tiny bit, little more compression, you could see just a little bit further away, but the majority of it, I'd say, was on the 16 mil.
So, Greg, uh, when you do warners like those, first of all, they are very unusual to do a 20-minute warner. But on top of it, there's always like 25 people in frame. It's not just following a guy and that's it.
Right.
There's gunshots, there's
Yeah.
explosions, there's people dying, a lot of
Yeah.
punches. I mean, the whole shebang. How do you balance the camera work with the cinematography? Because at some point, one have to be compromised by the other.
True.
So how that does work for you?
It's an interesting question. Because cinematically, that's not the best lens, right? You wouldn't shoot a whole movie on a 16 millimeter. But for that, it worked. And in a way, in my early career, someone had called me an artist, and I was like, I'm no artist. I can't even, an artist can draw or paint. And so I decided to start painting. And I learned so much about color and framing. And so, in a really long time ago, I really put in my brain that I wanted to do moving paintings. So, granted, some of that is, people and running around and, and maybe part of it is not very cinematic, but part of it could be. Um, and honestly, and I really followed Sam Hargrave, who really designed it with all of his stunt team. So, we would just try to fill the frame, make it this moving person, as I said. And that, there were times, especially on the train, where we wanted to get further away to see more. And I shot in a helicopter, shooting the helicopter landing on the train for behind the scenes, and to do a few like promos, but we never did use it. But it was super cool. I love doing it. And for sure you want to get further away, but it was this immersion. So it's an interesting difficult question to answer, other than other than I had moved the camera so much in cars, so much in fights, and there's plenty of times where you're looking for beauty, and as we all know, the longer lenses are so pretty on people's faces, and so you lose some of that. And it's the same thing as like watching 1917. It's just a different way to tell a story, and that was always for us the storytelling device. But you're gonna miss the over. You're gonna miss the tighter in there with someone's eyes and closer and feeling that emotion. So we would look to tell this emotion in obviously crazy fighting and technique. And this was awesome about Chris Hemsworth, is that he's doing it all himself, and um, so the cinema part of it is tough. Is obviously tough to do because you wouldn't pick that lens, right? You would pick a 40 or a 50, right? You would be a 35, even but not a 16, and um, so again, of course, we were always looking for backlight. Even though I still love shooting some front light, and we would do it occasionally, because I also felt that cinematically it had to be very natural. And that's what I love about front light, is that you're being honest. And so we were trying to be honest as much as we could. It was one of our rules, in addition to the camera not mostly going where a person couldn't go. Of course, sometimes it goes through a
Through
through a
windows and
window or
stuff. Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Obviously we broke our rule a few times, but Look, rules are made to be broken. I love to break the rules. Um,
Well, no, my question was a little bit more towards the lighting
ah,
because moving the camera as you guys move the camera, going changing sides, and every time you land on an actor, the actor is perfectly lit. It it's very. I mean, he's lit with a purpose. It's
yeah.
not he didn't land in an X spot and then the light was
Oh, right.
whoever whatever.
True.
So how difficult is to get those like every time there is a moment on the on the cell
Oh,
where after a huge fight you go on a close up of the
yeah.
girl and it's
Yeah.
perfect. I was like, how he did that?
Thank you.
The
Well,
camera is just
I will tell you how.
so
You have to have a good gaffer.
okay.
So I did have a good gaffer. Enzo in Prague. This guy was a genius. He's so good at it. I learned so much from him, to be honest. Um, so look, we would talk about it all the time, and this is why I said to the producer, "There's going to be a lot of lights." So we would just block it to the light as best as we could. And occasionally there were times we had to put a light bulb on the camera because you couldn't get the ping in the eyes. You couldn't get this little tiny nuance because lots of it was dark and I was terrified all the time. And my LUT was very strong. So we would pull the LUT off all the time. Matt Love was my DIT, who I love dearly. He and I would pull the LUT off all the time. Like, okay. There's a little information
There's enough
still.
there.
We're okay. We're okay. But we would. Enzo was a crate. Like he would have two tubes in his hand to be able to sneak around the fighting to help just give that little bit of extra something on the light. And for me, I know it's very modern today, and lots of DPs are making it very dark. And I love it dark too, but I also really want to see my actors. And I really want to see these sets that they built. Phil Ivey on Extraction 2, such an amazing guy. I've worked with him a lot, our production designer, made these beautiful sets. So I want to see them. Yes, I love it dark as well, and I love it moody and crazy. And in the cells, it is dark, right? And then the lights go off, so it's even darker, and it's honestly, it was terrifying, really, right? It's my first movie, and I'm just every day like, I'm just so scared. But I think it was a good place to be, also being painted into the corner like this and being a little afraid. Um, but it took a lot of discussing where we're going to go, how we're going to go, where we're going to land to help light those people. And of course, we had some lights in shot all the time, and we'd have to visually, paint them out. Um, so that challenge was another just really high bar challenge. And and then you go from we went from exterior to inside the trains, inside the trains, out inside the car. So we would go from a 16 and a half to a 2.8 because you didn't have a choice. You could
Yeah.
only do so much to manage that balance. Um, it happens all the time. This is what I love about this new Alexa 35 is that on my last movie, we built the set pieces on location, so we wanted to be inside and see outside, and it was crazy. You couldn't overexpose it, which is so weird for a digital camera, but it worked great. And we had built all these screens to go on the porch so we could try to minimize the exposure outside, and it was crazy how good it worked. But that little red Komodo is not as strong and not as powerful, so it was very difficult at times. And to try to manage that iris pull from outside to inside, and to do that was really extraordinarily difficult. But the lighting of it was so much fun. and so challenging. But those little eye lights we had to use all the time, and that little baby Ronin was on the verge of failing every second, and it would fail all the time because it just couldn't handle it. You put just the one light bulb on it, and so the lighting was huge, but really Enzo took us down a beautiful path. He helped so much. There was one place, the church. We had to shoot it 3 different times, and we lit it 3 completely different ways, and not intentionally. It's just how it happened. The first time, and the church is like 100 feet up, so we had to light it all from the outside, and it was quite difficult. There's just hundreds of lights, and then I got COVID, and so we stopped filming that, and we had the second unit DP, a local Czech guy, Milan. He took over, and they were shooting this garage, and they were shooting a bunch of it. So I got to be in my apartment and watch monitors and call on the phone and say, "Hey, can you stop and put a little extra light here and put a flag there?" And in 20 seconds, you watch them cut the camera. The guy goes with the light. The guy's going with the flag. It was so crazy to watch. But it worked. Then when we went back to the church, we couldn't shoot it at night anymore, which they forced us to do before because we were going to try to light it all from inside. So then we had to figure out how to light it from inside and black everything out. And then we went back for reshoots and had to reshoot some of it and lit it even with another way with another gaffer. So it was crazy to try to replicate, but I think we did it without you being able to tell.
Wow, that's incredible. Those iris pulls, something I haven't messed around with it yet, but I know a couple people that have had success with, I think it's called the Cinefade. Have you guys seen that? Where it's like a variable ND situation, but you keep the same f-stop depth of field. I'm like, oh, I'm going to try that on something.
Yeah, our depth of field definitely changed, right? But you can't tell. It's crazy how you just can't tell. I've never used the Cinefade, but I had heard of it.
Yeah. What's the so was this the first time, obviously first time main unit on a feature, and having a second unit DP working with you and underneath you? How did that relationship go? Was that one of those like tough to give up moments, or kind of again come naturally?
What's so funny is my favorite thing is people, and I'm a little easygoing in a way about it, but I'm also very I don't know. I played jazz when I was a kid, so this little bit of improvise freedom is really great. But I was also in the military, so I love structure, and the military in me keeps the structure and keeps us on time and going. But that freedom of improv works so well. So I know a ton of great second unit DPs, and I called all of them, and either they were unavailable or they said yes and then got a bigger job and then turned it down. It happened a few times, and I had met Milan on Gray Man 2, excuse me, on the Gray Man, and he was great. He had a great energy, and I'm into that a lot. I think energy and people are just such a great thing, and I always say you could be happy or sad, and I pick happy. So in talking to Milan, he and I had a lot of he said a lot of things that I liked and a lot of things that I was trying to do. So we really worked well together, but also, which was a part of my decision, but also I'm bringing a local DOP on the job. which means the local guys are going to help him more to do it. It's like yeah, I think you have to have that worldly view of what's the best for the project, and that it's what happened. And he was great. So to me, it was actually quite easy to do, and um, I started watching his dailies, and it was all terrific. And he went and did some tests with me, and then on his own, and he always made great choices. And so to me, honestly, it was actually quite easy.
So, Greg, you've been working on big movies
Yeah,
in since you were a camera operator.
it's true.
No, before even since you were a focus
Yeah,
puller. I mean, your entire career is basically big
it's
movies,
true.
and obviously you have worked with some of the best DPs in the world. Is there any particular DP that is your favorite, one that you can tell, oh, I he influenced me a lot, or that's the path I want to take, or
A few, for
so
sure.
it's just something like that.
For sure. His name is Wanmi, and although I did when I first met you and I walked in, you were shooting something so beautiful, and I loved it, and um, it was quite fun. But in my early
Thank
years,
you.
yes, for sure. And I, there's a few that I have watched over the years that I never got to work with. Chivo, who I think is brilliant. But I worked with Bob Richardson, who I always thought was amazing. Janusz Kaminski, who I shot lots of commercials with, no movies, but lots of commercials. And I remember doing my first really big Cadillac campaign, and he got to watch it. He kept saying, "Ooh, who's this? Ooh, it's very nice. Who shot this?" And I was super honored to have made it kind of his look. I followed his look in that world. Um, I think Roger Deakins is masterful. I worked on a second unit on one of his movies where I was just the camera operator, but I never got to meet him. I would have loved to, because I think he's also a genius. Um, uh, I enjoyed working with Wally Pfister in a lot of his stuff with Chris Nolan. I got to work on Inception, which he won an award for. So that was kind of a good feeling, just to have helped. In no way did I do anything to make his award for him, but it was just cool to be a part of that he won
Hmm.
on. Um, uh, for sure, there's more. Um, oh, uh, Roberto uh, Pietro. Is that
Rodrigo,
Rodrigo? Thank
Rodrigo
you.
Prieto.
And Roberto Schaefer. Those are the two I was thinking.
Yeah.
Um, Rodrigo was amazing. I did a movie with him, and I did a James Bond with Roberto Schaefer. They both touched me as well. And look, Ellen Curris was amazing. We had such a great relationship in shooting together, and so many people. I feel like I've been touched by a lot of them, and I've worked for a lot of greats, and there's way more, for sure, including some commercial guys. Peter Nigel, I grew up with. He's no longer with us, but he really helped me build my eye and learn so much about natural light. And another car commercial guy, Sean Tonson, who was the premier car commercial guy, who actually I started that camera car with him, the Russian arm then, uh, now called Ukraine arm. Um, uh, so these guys were very good at natural light, and that helped shape a lot of things as well. So I, as everybody, constantly watch movies, but I like the I like action comedies. It's my favorite. I don't know. I don't know.
So I'm sure with all the second unit work and the commercial work, you've developed a very kind of specific prep process, I'm sure, for different things and different types of work. Did that change at all going into Extraction? Working with Sam, did that have any influence, or did you kind of adapt your prep to now a main unit philosophy?
It has evolved and continues to evolve. However, even on the movie I'm doing now, I'm doing second unit again. And Sam Hargrave asked me to do the movie, but I was shooting my last one in Australia, so I wasn't available. And he picked Pedro Luke, who is also just lovely guy, such a good photographer as well. So it's been really nice to work with him. But my process has changed a little, and because it's technical and it's creative, and I just really love that mixture of the two. And I love to hear what the director has to say, of course, and I love to help tell the story with the camera and with the lighting. Um, Again, there these moving paintings to me might sound silly to some people, but really, it's just how I think about it. And but the technical aspect, I think, is really tough. And what I did, well, I tell you, what I really didn't know is how much of a manager you have to manage every department that you touch and to respond to 100 emails a night, you know. So all of that is quite challenging, but I think I have my process down now, and I love to go through. Look, oh, Larry Scher is another DP who I loved and I've done a lot with, but he made Shot Deck, as probably a lot of people know, and I think it's so great, and I use that as well, because before you would just try to find the pictures on the internet some way, but it really helped me on Extraction 2. I pulled from everywhere everything. I was looking for this blue green that look, almost everything has been done, right? People have been mixing warm light and cool light forever. Uh, but I was looking for a very specific blue green. It took me a very long time to find it, but I found it in lots of movies, lots of photographs, and I put my own spin on it. Actually, in testing on Extraction 2, I had chosen it, and then something didn't sit right. So I went and tested again, and I went from one sheet of steel blue to two sheets of steel blue. And I felt horrible because they had already pre-lit two prisons. So they had to add another layer of gel on something like 250 lights. I felt horrible. So I arrived this night with like 6 cases of Pilsner Urquell for the guys. I'm very sorry.
yeah.
Like, so they all had a good laugh.
Like, by the way, you're like a quarter stop down everywhere.
Yeah.
Because
And we didn't have this quarter stop thing to lose either. But look, in a way, I didn't care, right? Because it's the final product you're looking at. And I remember a electrician years ago, we had moved this 18K like 5 times because the director just kept changing his mind, and he was very frustrated. And obviously, I understand why I don't want to move 5 times either. And I said, listen, come on, man. I know it's hard work. It's on wheels. We're just going to push it over here. It's about the final product. So let's just make it happen. And sometimes it's hard. And but I'm also very into a little bit of less is more. One key light is great. Just light through the windows. It's awesome. Sure, we have little lights everywhere and do that, but I do love simplicity, and I do love it a little natural.
So now that you have gone back to second unit, after doing that a huge production like Extraction 2 as a main DP, is anything that has changed in your mind? I mean, full disclosure, I worked with Greg a couple of months ago. He's the most respectful second unit DP ever. Is very, very, very talented, and he freaking nailed what I asked him to do. But you already have that. But it's anything that after being on the other side of the process that has changed in your mind.
I learned so much, and I will tell you, my first my first one back to shoot second unit, I remember going, I have to match that. Why would you do that? Like, you could have just put the one here instead of all. Like, okay, sure, I could do it this way, but it's really difficult, and I don't know why you would make it so difficult. No,
I hope that wasn't
it
mine.
was
by the
not
way.
yours, and I'm not going to say it, because he's a terrific cinematographer. And look, I'm sure there was a reason why, and like, and that's the. I remember also growing up in the commercial world where every PA wants to be a director and they all think they could be the director. And I said, you guys, by the time the director gets here, it's now easy. This is the easy stuff here shooting. It's all of the prep and all of getting the job and all. It's so difficult, until you see all of that, until you hear why wouldn't you just do this? Oh, because there's 8 reasons why. So I appreciate that with anyone. So I try not to say, why would you do, but I did. So, but what, it made me better. It made me calmer. It made me think about the story more so than I ever did. And I will tell you, I would still shoot second unit any day of the week. I love it. And I had a terrific time with you, Wami. That was so much fun. And it was great to hear your 2 cents and what you wanted and how to apply that and what could we do. And I had a terrific time. Everyone was so nice on your movie. So I think it's only helped me, and I tried to throw my ego away as much as I could years ago. Obviously, we all still have an ego. You can't live without one. But I really try to. Every person matters from top to bottom. We are all just people. No one's better than anyone else. That's how I look at it. And to me, I just enjoy every part of it. And it's different. And look, this one, it's a little less stress. I don't have to manage the entire thing and pick every single thing. Like, what's your lookbook? Oh, show me. Oh, great. Okay, you want it to look like that. Great. Let's do it. Fantastic. We could still collaborate in that way, but I still love it. It's so much fun to me. Again, like I said, it's kind of not like work. I really enjoy it. I love it.
Was the follow up to Extraction 2, your second main unit venture in Australia, was that along the same lines, action packed, or was there a departure there?
It is an action movie, but based in the 1800s pirate movie. I remember. Oh, I knew I forgot somebody else. Jeff Cronowith, who became a good friend, and you cannot rattle Jeff. This guy is like just so even keel. I love him. He's amazing. Him and his brother, I did a bunch of commercials with, and I've done a lot with Jeff. But he warned me. He was like, it's not easy, but where are the lights coming from? Where what is it? And there's the practicals are candles or torches or fire. That's it, right? There was no electricity. So Frankie Flowers, who directed and wrote the movie, such a great guy, such a great filmmaker, and Priyanka Chopra and Carl Urban, who were the leads in it, were really terrific. Priyanka had bruises head to toe. She worked so hard. Another Russo produced movie. I've done 6 or so of their movies. I love it, and I love them. But action movie, but in the 1800s. So it was definitely a different world. I definitely went darker and moodier, for me, even though I still,
Welcome, welcome to the dark
yeah.
side.
Uh, we ran out of the money at the end of the movie and we were in caves. So unfortunately, I couldn't be so perfect. So in post, I'm going to be putting power windows everywhere, uh, but it will definitely be darker. But for sure, you will still see their faces and you're still going to see the sets. Just how I like it. It's what I like. Um, but all new challenges. Yes, yes, an action movie, and um, and I love this movie. This crew also was just incredible, just like the crew in Prague. Um, and I've been fortunate to travel the world so much, and I actually did. I looked it up the other. So I've been in 40 countries and 41 states because of this industry. I
Yeah,
still don't know how it's possible, but my poor kids.
And they pay you to go there.
yeah, exactly.
So,
It's amazing.
so all sorts of different challenges. We did a little mini oneer in it, very short, but it was fun to do, and it just gives you this immersion, and it's so interesting because it was a tension building moment. It was kind of the right thing to do, not just to have a oneer to have it, but it was really a storytelling device. Um, but super fun, really, really cool. Another great gaffer, Reg Garside. He was so great. And as I said, the entire crew. Uh, uh, but very interesting to have to do everything by candle or by the light outside. Um, Very easy to make it look different than my first movie. And I was asked to do a few other movies that I turned down because I was waiting for this movie called The Bluff. Um, I really wanted to shoot it after I read it and after I met with Frankie. It really was what I wanted to do. So it pushed so many times. I could easily have shot one or two other movies in between, but I wanted my second one to be strong, and I wanted to be able to have, uh, I'd love to show that, look, I could do more than just action. It is a drama, and there's lots of drama in it, and but it is still an action movie. So sure, that is my wheelhouse, of course. Um, and I really do enjoy the action part of it, but interesting and difficult. And that the day before we started shooting, we had to lose 8 main unit shoot days because we were so over budget. And a shame that we had to do that at the nth hour. But it was a 51 shoot day turned to 43, and I had prepped a 51-day movie. So
Yeah.
that was not easy. And Frankie and his co-writer every day were rewriting to help make the budget work and to not die by 1,000 cuts, to pull the appendix out so we could afford it. But I think we pulled the appendix out 4 or 5 times. So it was very difficult, very difficult. But it was an interesting thing. It made me learn to be a better, not producer, but to be more aware of the money and how to cheat something, or how to make the buck go further, and how to do it with less lights if you had to, um, which is not always easy, especially in a pirate, in a 1800s pirate movie. Um, uh, but it's a really grounded movie too, which I think is cool. Not swashbuckling pirates, very original. And Frankie's from the Cayman Islands, and it was supposed to be. It is the Cayman Islands, but we shot it in Australia.
So, has being such a talented cameraman and having a long-standing career as a camera operator, how easy or difficult it is for you to let the camera go when you're
Oh,
DPing.
that's a little harder. That one's harder. And I'm very, every time I interview a camera operator, I try to scare them because I said, if I'm going to be difficult on someone, it's going to be the camera operator because I did it a long time. So anytime anyone wants to use the easy rig, I'm like, are you sure? Because it's gonna do this, and so I'm gonna see the tilt, and it's gonna drive me crazy. Um, but also, but also, we had lots of stuntmen operate the camera, especially because they know the beats so well because they helped design it. They already rehearsed it a million times. So I don't mind doing it, but you know, I remember Josh Bleibtreu saying to me, don't give him a haircut. You got to have that frame so perfect, and so I find myself doing the same. Like you have way too much headroom, or you got to really try to do this. You really make sure that you're focusing on that, and and also I don't put the camera on my shoulder very much when I do handheld. I hold it here in front of me. So, and I've gotten good at that. My strength is really there, and I can hold it there for a very long time. So, and it also gives you from I can go from the ground to above my head quite easily, and use your knees, and it's like everything is a shock absorber, and everything helps you move these little nuances. So, I'm always looking for that little nuance and everything, and it is difficult sometimes because there will be a time where I'm trying to explain it, and they're not doing it exactly. And the other part is I feel like if you take the camera away from them, you could lose them the rest of the movie, right? You don't want to take away their ego and hurt them by saying, look, I can get out of the way, I'm going to do it. Now there's times where I operate a lot when I shoot second unit, especially in the camera car because I've done it for so long. um, I'm operating on this movie now and I love it. So um, but I find there's a lot of really good people out there, and I think if you talk them through it, it can be done. But it is probably the most difficult one for me to let go on.
I could imagine that. Have you find yourself on Extraction 2 or this movie that you shot in Australia reframing in post?
No,
Going like, hey, no, I need,
no,
or it's just okay, it is where it is.
not that.
The
Yeah,
movie's
not
like that.
that. I mean, maybe we've zoomed in a little bit or moved a few times here and there. Not terribly a lot because I would go again if we weren't really happy. And then at a certain point, I really do try to let go a little bit and just try to enjoy it as an audience member at some point. But I don't think we did a lot of big reframing in Extraction Two. We're still in post on the Bluff, the last movie. Um, again, there's probably a few little zoom ins here and there, but I haven't even finished. I haven't done the final DI of it anyway. Um, so no, I feel like we I tried to let go a little bit, but still, of course, I'm a little particular. Obviously, same with the light. I was really bummed at the end because it was just we just really had no more money, and so I didn't light it the way I really wanted to light it, and that hurt me. Really was the challenge, but also I did it in such a way that I knew I could fix it, and Dave Hussey is going to be my colorist, and I know he'll be able to do it, and I know we'll make something good of it. I'm actually really looking forward to it, but I'll have to do it remotely, which is not always the best, but it can be done, and I've done it before. So, um, but no, I don't think I'm not that critical afterwards. And I remember watching Extraction 2 and just going, is it good? I think it's really good. I'm not sure. Is it good? You just question yourself. It's hard. I think, that's the art of it, right? You have to know when to stop painting a little bit, and you have to know when that's what we got, and that's what, and yes, it's good. It's great.
That's the nature of it.
Yeah, right.
If you don't question yourself, it's
Yeah.
either you're a genius, which is not many geniuses around, or you are too self-confident that it's not. I don't think it's gonna be good at the end of the day.
It's a fine line, you
You
would
have
say,
to,
right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
For both of you, is that the same, you think?
I do question myself.
Yeah.
It takes me about 5 years to watch a movie that I shot and go like, oh, I want to watch the movie and enjoy
Yeah.
it without going like, oh my god, what I did that was the wrong
Yeah,
choice. This
yeah.
is not. I mean, like about 5 years at least.
Wow.
But then there's a moment where I go like, okay, I can enjoy the movie,
Yeah.
and it is what it is.
Yeah. Same for you?
Man, yeah, I haven't shot main unit on a movie yet. Just second unit and operated a bunch. And I can imagine the first time that I get that opportunity and I'm forced to hire an operator, that's going to be the tough one.
Hard to let go of it.
Similarly, like,
for sure.
oh God. But I have to imagine, again, you're focused so much on story and, like you said, the good of the project and, you know, keeping yourself surrounded by a good team. You don't want to alienate somebody and, you know, keep them invested.
You do have to think globally.
It's a tough dynamic.
I believe,
Yeah.
and you're not going to win every battle, and not everything is going to be perfect. And I actually love imperfection, but almost imperfection is more difficult than perfection at times. I think, but I will tell you a few times I was very proud of Extraction 2. That movie tried to kill me, I think, but there's a few times where I've looked and it was on somewhere, someone was watching it somehow, and I looked, I'm like, oh, who shot that? You know, it was like, so it was cool, it was fun. I don't think I'm gonna
gotta
get this
feel
every
good.
time, you know, but I mean, you know, look, I know, Wami, that you're saying too to watch it 5 years later. It was easier for me on that one. I think the bluff will be probably easier a little too. But you know, I remember early in my years, I was like, oh, I could have done so much better. I could have done so much better. Like, yeah, every day you could do so much better because you learned after you've done it, right? So
Yeah,
you're
of course.
trying to put your best foot forward, and sometimes it is your best foot forward. And so I guess I just try to learn from every day that you do it. And it's 30 years now of, and you know, obviously not 30 years of shooting, but 20 something years. I shot my sons when they were 2 and 4, and that was the first thing I shot on film. So fun, in the snow, and they're 22 and 24. So 20 years. And I do remember very distinctly thinking in the early days, I just beat myself up and I'm very hard on myself. And I think a lot of us are that way in general. But I really tried to let go a little and just, that was the best I could do, or, you know, I need to improve that I could do better on. And so how do I make that better for later? I guess I just tried to do that. I don't think I'm perfect at that either, but I think when I really tried to squash my ego as best as I could, I think that was the same time that I was really, maybe it's 10 years ago about that. I think that I kind of made this transition in my life to be easier on myself. But literally at dinner last night, someone said, you shouldn't be so hard on yourself. So I guess I still am trying.
Still working on it.
So
You said that you've been painting for a lot of years, and at the end of the day, it's kind of the same process. You finish your painting, and at some point you have to stop
Yes.
with it. You have to let it go, whether it's perfect or
That's
not.
right.
And I think that the beauty of art in general is that it's never perfect.
that's right.
It's I think.
I think you're right.
And you.
But with the painting, there's not somebody paying you $100 million and say, I want it on Saturday.
True.
Yeah, yeah. But it happens the same. At least for me, I learned to deal with that in post production because just to to choose the one way to go with the movie and commit to that and go,
Yeah.
because if you start diversing when you're
It's
grading,
going to be a
the
mess.
hours go, the hours
Yeah,
fly. You're gonna waste everybody's
that's
time,
right.
and it's a mess. It's a
You're going
patchwork.
to fail.
So
Yeah,
it's at the end of the day, it's okay. This is the path I
that's
choose.
it.
The colorist and I, the director, let's
Yes.
commit with this, and go for it. And then at the end of the day, it's like, okay, it is what it
Hmm.
is. I still gonna have my 5 years of pain, whether it's brilliant or not. But it's true. You have to choose one direction,
Yeah.
and you have to ask when you're painting. Okay, this is the end of it.
Right. You have to stop.
I gotta show it to the world,
Yep.
and whatever happens, it
Yep.
happens.
I caught myself doing this especially in post production coloring, doing the color grade, is when you really like, okay, okay, that stop it. That's enough. Like
Yeah,
you can't do every single little thing, you know. So you have to stop painting. Yeah.
but even when you're lighting on set,
Yeah. True. That's
at
absolutely
the
right.
at the beginning, I used to hate the watch. I used to hate that the first AD will go like, you got 10 minutes
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
or that I have to tell the first AD
How
I
many
need
time? How
30
many minutes
minutes.
is it? Yeah.
But I'm very, very committed to those 30 minutes. It's 30 minutes. It's not 35
That's
minutes.
right.
It's 30.
That's right.
And then you need to know when to stop.
That's right.
And you have to learn to live with it, I
Yeah.
guess. It's like, okay, this, I don't know.
It's true. And I would catch myself. I would catch myself. We would do the first take, and you're like, "Go put the one little. Just put that little. Go, 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 go." You know. And I caught myself doing that a lot, but not trying to interrupt any. But like, I wouldn't want to interrupt anyone. But if we cut, you know, and you could go slide it in for sure. And there's actually times where I would say, "I'm sorry, can we cut? You know, can we cut, please?" And my mistake. I need another light. I'm very sorry.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Especially if it's something egregious, you know. I love to be fast, and I love to be thinking of the next shot, and even two shots next. Like, okay, go ahead, put the 18K. You know, we're going to go there next, and that's it's going to be. So I'm always constantly ahead, thinking ahead with the gaffer or the grip or whomever. Um, and I did TV. I did some TV with Daniel Hargrave, who is doing second unit on this movie I'm on now, Matchbox. Sam Hargrave's brother, who did Extraction 2. Um, I got really fast on that TV show, and I was kind of bummed that I was on, you know, not the best TV show in the world. And but what's so funny is it really helped me become faster, helped me tell story better, and and when you have to get going, so, you know, I can go pretty fast, which I love, but also that, you know, there still is that nuance and art to it that you want to find, and speed is not always your friend in that, and but you still have to make your day. You know, this is the one thing maybe a lot of people don't know is I guess I always thought this with the movie, like I thought when I was very young that you would everything is so perfect that you got everything you wanted every day and that you get to make this perfection every day. It is not that.
Nope.
No, right?
Nope.
People would say. So you don't have a choice. You have to make your day. And if you don't do that, then tomorrow's going to be worse because we have to fix what we didn't finish yesterday. So um, look, we just did 62 setups 2 nights ago, and we didn't make our day. So,
Wow.
like, well, we're trying to do a lot in a day, right? That's obvious.
Wow. Maybe
Wow.
that was a little bit too much
Maybe we try to do too
to achieve.
Now,
Wow.
it's not always going to be this way, and that's a pretty rare occasion where you do that much you to make your day. Um, but sometimes you're chasing perfection, and you want, you know, perfection, and where you're, and and that takes time. But there is this fine line of you get this much time, like you said, you get it's not 35 minutes to shoot it, do it. You said 30 minutes. So it's 30 minutes. And everyone knows a movie 5 minutes, a movie 10 minutes is a half an hour, right? But
Yeah.
and we all are lying all the time. Not really, but it's it's difficult. But that's I just always thought everyone had everything to their disposal, and we absolutely do not.
No. Are you a technology guy, Greg? Are you excited or interested about anything that's coming out? I guess I'll walk that back. Mini LF on Komodo on Extraction 2. You switched it up
Alexa
on
35
the Bluff.
on the last movie that I did.
Yeah.
Um, I am not so techie anymore. Um, uh, I think all of the cameras are good. But for sure, there's differences. Obviously, someone was asking me, how'd you do that? How'd you do that? How could I test this? I said, listen, this thing is an amazing camera, right? This iPhone is an amazing camera. I take crazy good photos with it. Um, it's not the best, of course, absolutely. Um, I guess I moved away a little bit from the tech, and I all the time don't say I want the 12K there, the 18K there, put the 360 panel light here. I say this would be great to have the key light here. I would rather the gaffer put his lights, because every gaffer has his own truck. Every gaffer has his own lights, and so to me, I'm a little more loose about it. And yes, I would pick a camera technically for certain reasons. And I do love an Alexa personally. I do love the color space. I think they've made such a great camera. I do love Panavision lenses, but I've never shot on Panavision for my movie. Um, we're shooting Panavision on this movie, and these T series anamorphic lenses are great. They're amazing. I love it. But I shot my last movie on anamorphic because I couldn't use Panavision, which I won't go into this story. But I went from the most expensive lens that you can't buy from Panavision, and I went with the Atlas Orion anamorphics, and they were beautiful. And they're $8,000 a lens, not $80,000 a lens. So I loved them 2 to 1. It was super great. So a 28 mil is 28 this way and 14 this, horizontally. So it was really fun to work with and do. And um, so I'm less techie, even though I put the tech into it, but I don't follow it. If you ask me what was some would say what was the best camera for this or that, I might not be able to answer it. So I call my DIT. I call friends. I call people who do love the tech part of it, and I just ask them. And I have I don't have to know everything. I don't want to know everything. But what I want to do is tell a good story, and with lighting, with camera movement, and framing and blocking. And so that's what I love more than the techie part of it. I'm not as good at that.
But that goes back to the management aspect of the job you were talking about. And you've got this network, you can rely on other heads and,
Yeah.
distill it down and make the
Yeah.
decision.
My gaffer in the last movie, the first movie he was a gaffer on was 1977 or something. You think I'm going to tell him what's
Yeah.
better? Like, I don't think so. And he's actually super modern for
Yeah.
having been a gaffer from the 70s. In today's day, he's still very modern, and I thought it was such a cool thing. So I love the collaboration, and I love to ask um, his 2 cents. Of course, I have my idea and what we should do, where it should go, how it should be. The sun is going to go like this. We're going to follow it. We're going to put the fly swatter here. That's the one funny thing is our director made fun of me all the time. I said, yeah, okay, we're going to block the sun and then we're going to make our light. He's like, what do you mean block the sun? Who do you think you are? And I said, well, yeah. He's like, what are you, God? I was like, for sure, I am not God. I'm nowhere near that. But we need consistency. I can't chase it all day when we're trying to shoot the people this way. So yes, sometimes it's easier to block it and make it yourself.
Greg, well, I want to go back to Extraction 2 and that when you make a 20-minute Warner, that's a bold statement on what the look and the camera narrative of the movie is. Did you and Sam ever question if you had to balance it out afterwards, or if it was way too bold and way too much flashy at the beginning of the movie, or anything like that?
What I remember the most from it is Sam said it's the most important part of the movie, and I agree with him. But we still had to make a good movie, and I would say the first, in our first shoot, I think what I say we shot 77 days or something like this, and we did 10 reshoot days. We made a good action movie in that 77 days. And as I said, they asked us to make the Warner shorter. They said it's a little too long, but they tried to take 1 or 2 minutes out. And I said, look, if you want it shorter, it should be 10 minutes shorter, right? Not 2 minutes. That's negligible. So what we did, we were meant to shorten it. What we did actually was made it longer because we told more story. So we took, which was very interesting to do, was, okay, here was our last stitch. Let's now take and add this storytelling bit in that and then finish up with the last stitch that it was done. So we would insert stitches, which was incredible to do, and it was super interesting. But it started in the prison, and it just kept going and kept building and kept building. And I would say, to your question, the really, in the way, the hardest part was to make the sunrise, and the other hard part is to make that balance and that arc work perfectly that whole way through. And so I don't think we ever felt like it was too much here or there. Again, like if it was too much, it was way too much. It's like it's 10 minutes too much, or I think the other interesting thing is, and what we called it, and we did it all the time, is that we played jazz. It's really, we actually said these words, and because something is going to happen that wasn't necessarily a part of our program, a part of our rehearsals, a part of our stunt previs. The car is going to blow up and do what it does, so you have to kind of go with it. And I think that me playing jazz in my early years was just so much fun. So we did say it all the time that we were playing jazz. So that part of it was super fun, but that also can be very difficult. I guess sometimes you ask very unique, difficult questions, which I love. I feel like I have a difficult time explaining them or answering them, but I think that's where we're at. Because if it was too much, we decided it that day. For sure, there were times where, ooh, that was too much, or that didn't work, or that was crazy. We can't do that. I think that's the most part of it. What do we do? Trains, cars, prison. It was a big undertaking. And is it too much? Totally. But also it's super fun. Like it's a great roller coaster ride. That's why I said before, like I love to put the audience member in the front car of the roller coaster and hang on because it's going to be a ride. Um, but I think we changed a bunch of it in it, but also Sam really had designed again with his team such an amazing oneer. And the first one in the first movie is terrific, also raw and visceral, and only did we build on that, and that's why I loved making all of that equipment because it made our life easier. We're still using it. We're using it on this movie. We called it the Magic Scepter. It was the name that we gave it, and and we're still using it on this movie now, and no one, no, it sat on the shelf forever. The guys from Prague are on this movie in Budapest with us, and it sat on the shelf, and no one used it.
But and for the rest of the movie, so you guys dropped the bomb, the atomic bomb, in the 20th minute of the movie,
Yeah,
and that's this amazing shot. And then, but you still have 1 hour and something to go.
yeah.
Did you guys thought in some specific way of shooting it because you're coming from the atomic bomb, or it's just like it is what it is? That was just the way we shot this part, and now we're gonna not even worry about
Well,
that.
even to that, we did that even in the oneer because what I think you need to do is let the audience catch up, right? You can't just be the whole time. Have you have to let the brain catch up. It can't just be crazy the whole time. So it has its peaks and valleys, and that's why I loved the tool we made because, for instance, they are in the G wagon and it gets blown up and put it on its side, and then they have to run from there really far into this power plant and then into the train, and that long run was another, like, it was just a great time to and catch up, and we would check in with our characters all the time so that you knew where everyone was. And there were times where we leave Chris Hemsworth and go to other people, and I thought that was also very interesting. Um, so not only did not, yes, thought we were thoughtful about it throughout the rest of the movie, but also even in the oneer. And then, and when we came down, other things happen, and then the action kicks back off again. Uh, so it was always this little peaks and valleys, as I said, um, that helped not only build tension and and build the end of the movie to a climax, but uh, but again, I think even in fighting, even in car chasing, you have to slow down for a second and let people catch up and let your brain process. Otherwise, you're going to lose them. And what's interesting in our 10 days of reshoots, like I said, I thought we had made a good action movie, and then we really told more story in these little 10 days. That then for me, I thought, of course I'm a little biased, but I thought, well, there's a better story there, and we told more of a story. I had a writer friend who said, it's just action, you guys didn't tell any story. And well, it is an action movie, you know still. So it you can't go, it can't be all story, because then you're going to lose your action audience, and it is an action movie. It's Chris Hemsworth, um, so there's definitely talk of all of that, and that is something I've done for a long time too. Is I love and then back at it. And this I love to cross the line because it can be confusing and crazy. And the line was made so we could talk, so it wasn't confusing, right?
Yeah,
But in action, it's great to cross it all the time.
it's better actually. It is much more dynamic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. I know you've so you directed car
Yeah.
commercials. You've done a bunch of second unit action, main unit. Is there any thoughts of does that car directing transfer over to narrative at some point?
In a way, I think no. I watch what a movie director goes through, and as much as I loved doing car commercials, which are definitely much easier, it's 30 seconds or whatever. Then it was even 60 or 90 seconds, sure. But, and that has its own challenges to make your point and to tell the story in such a quick amount of time. But what I found is that I was a better shooter and that I'm better suited for that than I would be directing. Um, I do still love people. The actors are very easy for me to talk to. I feel like we're all just a people here on this earth all together. So I'm not nervous. I'm enamored all the time for sure. People are amazing, and there's all sorts of cool people that do incredible things that are better than anything I would ever do, of course. But they're still just people like we all are. So to me, it wouldn't be too difficult, and for sure, I could take care of my actors and do that if I directed. But I feel like I'm just better suited to be a director of photography, and I love to add to the story. I wouldn't be such a good writer, but I could help enhance it or help tell the story better or have a device that would help make this part better, I feel. Um, and again, like I said, I'm still learning every day and working on that every day as well. But I don't think I would be as good of a director uh, as I would want to be. Maybe if I was older, maybe further down the line, maybe. But for now, I love what I'm doing, and I would like to continue this.
Well, very looking forward to watch the bluff,
Oh, thank you. Me too.
and hopefully to talk with you again about it
Cool.
here.
Yeah.
And thank you very very much for your time. It's been fantastic. It's always a pleasure. I hope I work with you again, and if I don't, it's because you're shooting amazing movies by yourself. And
Thank you. I would still shoot with you anytime. Uh, I,
well,
I really enjoyed our time, and I appreciate you guys having me on, and I really enjoyed it, and it was great to talk with you both, and would do anything with you again, and be happy to talk about the Bluff once it comes out. Let's hope it's good.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you so much, guys.